Alrighty, we are live. Welcome to another episode of More Than a Game Live. My name's Tommie C. Glad to have you all on board today. Apologies, we're a little bit late. It seems the internet has shit itself in South Yarra this morning, which has led to some tech issues for Jesse. Jesse, how are you feeling right now? Are you raging? Is there steam coming out of your ears?
You know, punctuality is a big thing for me, Tommie, and it feels right now like it's sort of celebrity internet island. I mean, who's going to survive? I mean, I could drop out at any time. I could be voted off the island, so I'm watching my back at this stage.
Mate, I'm really hoping that your internet doesn't die and it's not just Colby and I.
Colby, how with him, Jesse?
Yeah. Colby, with the spectre of hanging out with just me this morning, hanging over your head, how are you feeling this morning?
Oh man, I'm feeling great. I'm just happy to have football back, boys. I've been in a work prison for the past 2 weeks, and I'm like, I watched my first full game of football with the A League last night. In 2 weeks, and I was just savouring every moment. It was I'm just happy to be here, boys.
You've been on work island while Jesse's been on internet island.
I don't know which is worse.
That's right.
It's probably the same island, I think.
Yeah.
Alrighty, before we get into some European football, I will throw out a bit of an ad first. So More Than a Game is going to be joining in Soccer Aid next Friday. Soccer Aid is the brainchild of Roundball Project, and we'll be joined by Destruction in the Box, the Ladies League, Striptease, and also the Soccer Podcast. The talented and very likeable Daniel Garr will also be jumping in as a special guest, and I believe Simon Hill is also going to be making an appearance. So I'm genuinely excited about that, not just as a presenter, but I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. It is for a good cause, though, with the Dylan Tombedes Foundation, the John Moriarty Football, and the Regan Milstein Foundation are also going to be receiving some donations from that as well. So please, if you can, head to the GoFundMe page for that, and don't forget to tune in at 7 p.m. on Friday, the 28th of August. Now that I've done that, ladies and gents, shall we kick into a little bit of transfer chat? Look, I know that the first one straight up that I know has caught everyone's attention all over the world is Joe Hart's got a brand new club. Jesse, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, you remember I gave you a little bit of stick, friendly stick, of course, Tommie, in the group chat about this after Joe Hart's career was declared dead and buried by yourself. But what a renaissance linking up with Mourinho. And I think there's a bit of a wager going on as to how much game time Joe Hart's going to have this season. Would you like to enlighten the viewers and listeners on that one, Tommie?
Yeah, so I threw out a bet that I don't think Joe Hart's going to play a minute of Premier League football this year. I think Colby, you've taken up the bet, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, we're not accounting for injuries or anything here, boys. Lloris is not the youngest and most injury-free keeper, and Gazzanic has had his own injury issues as well. So, I think Joe Hart will have an infamous appearance. But and I note that Spurs have quietly released Michel Vorm into the sunset, to which he came to cover them in the coronavirus era. They've just as quickly shipped him back out the door. So, Joe Hart is at least third in line.
He's they put Vorm out to pasture, and then they've brought in Hart to pick up the slack. Another player that's joined up at Spurs is Pierre Højbjerg, who's coming from Southampton. I don't think the fee was announced. I think it's just undisclosed, but good pickup. You think, Colby?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is a good pickup. I'm not as big on this deal as Damo. I think that the terms of the deal that I read was something to the effect of Kyle Walker-Peters going the other way plus $3 million or something like that. And based on Kyle Walker,
sounds cheap, doesn't it?
Yeah, based on his season last year, where he was supposed to break out and get this big opportunity in the Southampton team, and then did sweet fuck all. Towards the end of the season, he got a bit of a run, but yeah, it seems like at the moment Spurs have got the better end of the deal, but they just love hoovering up mediocre Southampton midfielders, don't they?
Whoa! They're not.
KWP will become the new GST. You just add KWP to any deal, and just it's like a surcharge.
I thought you were going to say you only get 10% of the season out of him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
When you said GST, I thought, hang on, who's that? I don't recognise that footballer's name. One footballer who has hopefully going to be making a few saves this year, though, is Ramsdale has headed into Sheffield United to fill the big shoes of Hendo, who's looks like he's got himself a new deal at Manchester United as well. So, 18.5 million for Ramsdale. Do you think that's? Do you think they've paid overs?
No, I think he's a young, quite a good prospect. Probably like championship.
One season in the Premier League.
I mean, but he had quite a good season. Yes, he conceded a lot of goals, but he had Ake in front of him. So I think we'll really see this season if Sheffield can keep their back three together that Damo is always going on about. Just how critical they are.
Because this is everyone's opportunity to just stick the boot into Sheffield United while Damo wasn't here to defend them, and you've just given up the chance. So I'm not sure if you get another chance like that.
Yeah, well, it's more fun to make fun of him when he's here, to be honest.
and Tommie, I think Chris Wilder's earned our trust by now, don't you?
This is true. Although, let's just hope Ramsdale doesn't just get dizzy from all the overlapping centre backs happening in front of him. There's probably one other big transfer that's happened in the last week before we kick off into a few sort of rumours, and that's Willian headed to Arsenal on a free. What are your thoughts on that one, Jesse?
Well, in Willian's words, it's a dream come true, and I think for all of us, if we all just wanted to refer to Arsenal Football Club as a YouTube highlights reel, it would be a dream come true. But this is 2020 Willian. And there's a big rebuild going on there. And will he, at his age, be there to enjoy the fruits of it when it hopefully happens for them in a few years' time? I don't know, but he sounds like he's going to be an important prospect for them as far as experience. And I have a lot of respect for Willian because I think he's a big game player. Like sometimes he can be a little bit anonymous, but in other games, you see these wins over the years. Chelsea have pulled out against United and things like that, and he's generally the guy who's popped up in the second half and scored the winner. So I think he's a good signing for any club at this stage. I wouldn't have minded him going up to us.
He's only 31 as well, or something like that. He's not super old. Like he's still got a good couple of years left in him. But yeah, well trodden path, Chelsea to Arsenal, boys. And the other big deal, obviously, Tommie, to Arsenal, they also got Salah Adine from Bayern.
Did you either of you see the Arsenal Football Club Twitter post about this?
No, didn't see it.
Just said, "Welcome to Arsenal, Salah." Just imagine.
Yeah, I think that gag does work better in text than in audio form. So apologies for that, listeners.
And look, there's a couple of rumors that are floating around at the moment involving two Thiagos, Thiago Alcantara to Liverpool and Thiago Silva to Chelsea. Which of those do you think is likely a better pickup? Jesse?
Ooh.
I'm a little bit torn on the Thiago Alcantara because I think that Ginny, like I already like Wijnaldum, but he's just he isn't signing a new deal at this stage. Like he's had plenty of time to do it, and he's looking like he's going to not in the same manner, but it looks like he's heading towards doing what Emre Can did, which is essentially just wind it down until he's on a free. And the question is does Ginny sort of already know that they're looking to replace him, and is he sort of looking elsewhere? You've obviously just had Koeman go to Barcelona. There seems to be, we saw this with goalkeepers in Courtois a couple of years ago, where other things need to move for things to happen, and Liverpool still remain adamant that they're not interested in Thiago as far as the club's concerned at the moment, but the media is still going at it. So one of those things that could be left to the last minute. The fact that Bayern keeps progressing in the Champions League now to the final has sort of meant that like he's going up in value as well, because he's been such an integral part of that team. So it's kind of like I think he's smart to leave it to the last minute of the transfer window, and Liverpool have to probably wait to get him if they do get him. But I'm not convinced this is going to happen. I haven't been convinced from the beginning. It just doesn't seem like it's a position that we're desperate to fill. It's kind of like the kind of position we'd fill to try and stop our rivals signing him, but it doesn't feel like a position that we're desperate to fill.
If anything, I can imagine him kind of being more competition for Fabinho than being a direct replacement for Wijnaldum.
Yep, I agree with that, Tommie. Jesse, I'll jump in. Yeah, I think that's probably right, Tommie. He gives the midfield something a little bit different. He's definitely a different player from Gini Wijnaldum. 29. He's not not super old, but not super young either. It just means that those other more dynamic midfielders like your Nabbies and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain will need to really step up if Gini goes and Thiago comes in. So and competition for Fabinho as well. So if Klopp is looking for that, then he looks like he could be a good at least bit part player. But the other midfielders around him will definitely need to step up.
Fair enough. Either of you got any more transfer chat before we press on?
Well, I think we've heavily neglected Thiago Silva here, so I think I'll just a quick word on him.
Give us your thoughts.
Impressive if he can. Well, he will obviously be wanting to go out a winner with PSG, and again, that seems to add a little bit of gloss to your the transfer if it happens, obviously. So if that happens, I think Chelsea's probably the most likely to pick him up if you are looking at clubs just because of the money situation. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They've got the funds in the bank, whereas the other teams don't necessarily have that. So probably Chelsea is a good move for him.
It's a bit of a curious situation that he wants to leave PSV, probably one of the richest football clubs in the world, to go to Chelsea. And Chelsea they've got a buck as well, but like you'd think that they would be offering sort of similar wages, but I guess it's a strange world that we live in at the moment. Alrighty, gents. Before, without any further ado, it's probably time that we got into some European football, though. Yesterday morning, Australian time, the Europa League final was played. Sevilla and Inter Milan headed off that one. 4 goals in the opening 35 minutes meant that this final was a pretty exciting game. Football is a cruel mistress, though, and Lukaku, who'd opened the scoring from the spot in just the 5th minute, he poked home Diego Carlos's bicycle kick, and it ended up being adjudged an own goal, but that was the deciding goal in this one. Pretty entertaining game, though. You guys enjoy this one? Colby?
Yeah, mate. I caught up with the mini match of this one after the fact because I wasn't waking up at that time for it, but actually I sort of wish I had now. It was a very exciting game, and I mean, because before I'd actually I'd had the results spoiled before I watched it, and so I knew that Sevilla was going to win. But it was a lot more of an arm wrestle and an exciting match than it was made to sound.
Yeah, I think if the Champions League final is just like sort of an inch worth of that in terms of excitement, then I think it's going to be still going to be a really good game. So, Jesse?
Tommie, a wee story on that, actually. So I tend to turn my message and notifications off before I go to bed just to make sure that I'm not ruined, the results not ruined for me. Did everything right. I went through the motions, the process, woke up, saw I had one Twitter notification, just thought, I might have a quick look, bang. More than a game, top of my newsfeed, Sevilla won the Europa League. And if that's not ironic, I don't know what is. But it meant that I sort of skipped to the highlights rather than the mini match. But again, I'm like Colby. I sort of, in some way, wish that I actually stay up to watch it. It's that good a game.
Fair enough. Boys, this is Sevilla's 6th Europa League or UEFA Cup title in the past 15 years. It seems as though they've very deliberately carved out a niche for themselves whereby they're not even trying to compete, I guess, for Champions League or even first or second in Spain any longer. Do you think they should be more ambitious, or do you like that they've carved out this niche for themselves that's sort of in the second tier of continental cup competitions?
It's sort of like the Adelaide United of La Liga, right? They just every couple of years they just win a cup competition, and keep the fans happy. They play exciting football without challenging for the title in the main league, and they have a couple of players that you like to watch, and then they just ride off into the sunset and have a nice holiday every year. So
yeah, so a couple of other interesting parts about this match. Luke de Jong, who he got two goals in this one for Sevilla. He's Sim de Jong's brother, who some people might remember from the A-League from a couple of seasons ago. Interestingly, Luke de Jong, he had a little bit of a stint in the Premier League with Newcastle in 2014. Played 12 games and didn't score a goal. So I guess plenty of hope out there for all those failed Premier League players that they might get scooped up by Sevilla and go on and bang in a couple of goals in a Europa League Final and take home some silverware.
I used to sign this bloke on FIFA all the time. He's got the bullet header or whatever the trait is that he just always bangs in really good headers, but he's got no pace. So you just have to tell him to stay in the box and just get his head on stuff, and that's what he did in this game by the looks of it.
All right. Another player who's been banging in goals, though, has been Lukaku. I mentioned already that he was decisive at both ends. He scored 34 goals this season in all competitions. But bizarrely, Anthony Martial was actually the one who was trending on Twitter during the Europa League final. Of course, people comparing Martial to Lukaku and saying, "Oh, should Man United have let him go?" Lukaku, I mean. Do you think Lukaku is proving to be a better player? Obviously, he's probably I think Lukaku's had a better season, but do you think Man United may be missing him or happy to see him doing things in Italy?
He's a brilliant player, but he just has. He's always going to be one of those players that occasionally can just do something that's just utterly bizarre, and that stops him from being kind of like considered permanently elite. But when he's on a streak, he's just almost unstoppable. Like he's not obviously like incredibly quick over a long distance, but he's so quick under a short distance for his size that he can get around someone, brush him off, and then just bury it. I remember when he played for Everton, his sort of signature move was just they'd only get the ball to him maybe twice a game, and he'd score twice a game. So he was very clinical. So he's found a team that's set up for him. I suppose that Man United have such expectation. I'm not saying that Inter doesn't, but maybe he's found a system that works better for him, and he's got a coach that absolutely would go to the end of the earth for him. Conte seems to just chase him everywhere he goes. He's like, I just want Lukaku first name on the team sheet.
Conte needs a big man. Needs a big man to lead the line. Just like Mourinho, they just love to have a big man leading the line. And I think that just goes to show Tommie and Jesse that that season or two, whatever it was at United, was a real blip because he just otherwise just scores goals everywhere he goes, and something wasn't right. And I think Jesse probably hit it, like it probably wasn't the system for him. Maybe it was the Old Trafford pressure. Who knows? But he's going on to just keep up that trajectory that we saw him sort of heading towards at Everton. So I don't know whether United should or would bring him back because it seems like they've got a pretty pretty settled front three toward the back end of last season that will go on and improve and play together and help each other out. So it looks like the best thing for both parties if they just sort of things stay as they are.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens at Inter. It looks like there's a little bit of tension at the moment between Conte and the Inter board and owners. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not Conte stays, and if Conte moves on to something different, like may not necessarily see the same Lukaku next season, or he could get sold, or geez, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? There's one other battle in this game that was pretty interesting. It involved one player on the field, one player off the pitch, though. Eva Banega, the Sevilla midfielder, classy Argentinian deep line midfielder.
He classy, Tommie.
Oh, jeez. He had a bit of a dust up with Conte, and Conte was pretty pissed off at the time. And Banega, he's told him pretty much, hey mate, just relax there. Like, is that hairpiece even real? Which that is elite banter, and I think it was Andy in our group chat. He was doing the translation for us, and I saw it pop up a few other places on the social media as well. So another brilliant battle.
And then Conte said he was going to go fight him or something.
Conte,
meet me outside after the game.
Conte at this point, which is about, I think, sort of 20 or 30 minutes into the game, it looked like Conte was honestly losing his mind. And like we've seen him in the Premier League, right? When he gets real fired up, he just looks like he could explode, or God knows what's going to happen. But I thought that was funny as well. Anything else about Europa League, fellas? Nope. Okay. All right. Into the Champions League, and we'll touch upon both semi-finals that have been played in the last couple of days. But before that, obviously, the quarterfinals and the semi-finals have, rather than being two-legged matches, they've been played as single-legged ties this time around. Have you guys preferred that, or you prefer it goes back to two-legged games?
Two-legged for me. Tommie, like I think that traditionally I like a two-legged tie. Obviously, it's something that I don't enjoy so much when it's the League Cup or the FA Cup maybe, but those kind of leagues, cups, I'm not so excited by. But for the Champions League, I've always liked two-legged. I think it gives that team the opportunity to stage these epic comebacks, and I think that we can't forget that a lot of the things that we love about the Champions League is when a team just against the odds somehow pulls a result out of the fire, and that's generally on the back of a comeback, and you don't get an opportunity to do that comeback if you remove the two-legged ties. So I think that they need to stay. I think that this completely makes sense for what we're in right now, and it's a unique tournament, but I don't think that they should remove two-legged ties. That's my opinion.
100%.
Cool.
Jesse, yeah. Couldn't have said it better, mate. Like think back to some of those matches that we got like just last season in the Champions League, the Ajax and the Liverpool. And the season before, and a couple of years before that, you had the Roma and the PSG, and those moments are some of the best moments I've seen in football, let alone just in the Champions League. So yeah, I think the two-legged ties have to stay. Just the pure drama of it all, playing in your home stadium, to put on comebacks like that. That's just what it's all about.
And that's an interesting point you make about when you do have a one-legged game and it's played in a neutral venue, is you don't have those fans there. And I guess it's a very unique situation at the moment where you can play games in a neutral venue and it's not really harming either team because, well, there wouldn't be fans at Anfield or any ground at the moment. So, pretty unique set of circumstances right now. But RB Leipzig, they tried to knock off PSG a couple of days ago, but ultimately were unsuccessful. They ended up losing 3-0 to PSG, and I thought this was surprisingly one-sided. Colby, would you agree with that? Or?
One-sided on the score sheet, but RB Leipzig, they looked in it at times, but PSG basically ran away with it in the end, and Neymar in particular ran riot and could have had a lot more in terms of score sheet involvement, but he dominated the play.
This was Neymar at his best, wasn't it?
It was. No, none of this like rolling around and being a meme and stuff like that. Like he
no noodle hair.
Could have and should have had some goals, but take nothing away from his performance.
Yeah, I think for you think that it was a little bit closer than I do, but for me, the fact that Neymar had, I think, at least 2 or 3 really gilt-edged chances that probably he should have scored or on another day would have scored, I think that shows how big the gulf in quality was in this one. And I think maybe with Timo Werner in that RB Leipzig side, I think maybe RB Leipzig might have had a better chance, but obviously it just wasn't to be. And they ended up running away 3-0 in this one. I thought Mbappe again was really good in this one as well. And he's going to be obviously a huge cog for them, or a really key player for them come the final as well. Jesse, anything from you on this one as well, or?
I think it's just context. Context is a beautiful thing, especially this year. And I think RB Leipzig being in the semi-final Just need to remind ourselves that no one would have predicted that at the start of the season, and the coaching and the managing has been absolutely superb. And the going back to this two-legged tie versus 90 minutes, the nature of a 90-minute game is that if you go down by a couple of goals in the first half, it's very, very hard to come back, even if you're an elite team, let alone a team that wasn't expected to be there in the first place. So PSG had firepower all over the pitch. They're the kind of team that you can imagine dig themselves out of a hole if they went one behind, but I felt like Leipzig needed to score that first goal to win the game, and unfortunately they didn't for them. So I guess I say unfortunately, inverted commas, because I think there's plenty of Germany that didn't want Leipzig to go any further than they did. So I guess that's another story.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a troubling match for a lot of people. A lot of people didn't really know who to support, whether it was either the Qatar State Investment Fund or a soft drink company. Sort of like, geez. But I tell you what, it is easy to forget how far RB Leipzig have come, and maybe people are just forgetting that because of Nagelsmann's outrageous suit that he wore, and people just forgot about it. Alrighty, boys. Let's move on to the other semi, which was Bayern playing Lyon, another French versus German playoff in this one. Lyon went really close in the twice in the first 15 minutes, and I think ultimately the game would have been very different had Lyon managed to bag one of those chances. But ultimately, it wasn't until the 18th minute when Bayern did score, and it kind of felt against the run of play, or against the run of, I guess, chances created, with Gnabry cutting in off the right and just absolutely banging it in from about 20 yards out. Then rolled out the James Harden-inspired cooking celebration. Did either of you two know about this one, like the celebration? I had to do a bit of Googling to figure out what it meant.
I knew it was his thing, but I didn't know where it came from. Yeah,
apparently Gnabry's really into the NBA, and so it's like James Harden, who admittedly I don't follow the NBA particularly closely, but apparently he does something similar as well, where he's just like cooking up some points or cooking up some big plays, and that's why like the little stirring thing comes from.
A lot of the celebrations in the Premier League come from the NBA actually as well. I've seen
really.
Lukaku loves the King James, and Benteke as well, the silencer, and there's quite a few. And Pogba's been known to pull out NBA celebrations as well as Griezmann. They all froth it.
Yeah, they do.
Oh dear. And it was Gnabry again on the 33rd minute, who was Johnny on the spot after Lewandowski made inappropriately a bit of a meal of what looked like a pretty simple sort of tap in or something like that, just from a cross. Gnabry was the chef to serve it up to give Bayern a 2-0 lead though. And at this point I was thinking, oh geez, I don't really think Lyon are going to be able to get back into this, and they sort of huffed and puffed, but ultimately Akambi again couldn't beat Neuer in like the 57th minute, and at that point you thought, yeah, I think they're really not going to be able to get back into it. And Lewandowski on the 88th minute ended up scoring another goal, which gave Bayern ultimately the win. Any particular performances that stood out for you in this one, Jesse?
I mean, you can't go much further than Gnabry. He just was sensational. And it's the performance of the season for me, everyone will talk about the Barca performance, and rightly so, but the performance of the season before that, it seems like a long, long time ago, was the Spurs demolition. And Gnabry was, I think he scored a hat-trick that night against Spurs in their stadium. And what did they win by, like 7 goals or something in that game?
A lot.
A lot. He particularly enjoyed that because he'd been a former Arsenal player, which I'm sure all the Arsenal fans won't like hearing. But he kind of just is oozing class, and he looks like a player that's just absolutely, I wouldn't say at his peak, because I think he's still got plenty of room to improve going forward, but he just looks like a guy that can blow open a game. And I think we were talking about this in our group chat about the fact that, you know, you're going to have Gnabry on one side and Sane on the other. It's a scary prospect for the rest of Europe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of starting to remind, I think, a few people of the Ribéry Robin pairing that they had over the last couple of years. And I tell you what, Gnabry cutting in off the left and then just like rifling it home, that was a little bit sort of Robin-esque, where you sort of think, oh yeah, like he seems to be sort of closed down, and then like I actually didn't think the Lyon defending for that first goal was actually particularly bad. It's just Gnabry just managed to create something pretty much out of nothing. A couple other performances that I thought were particularly noteworthy in this one was I thought Neuer was very good for Bayern. He came up with a couple of really clutch saves in one-on-one situations, and really, I guess if Neuer doesn't have a good day, one of those first two goals goes in the first 15 minutes, and then it's a very different situation, I guess, heading into the second half, and then obviously that other one in the second half as well. I thought compared to Lopez in the Lyon goal, he looks just so much more coordinated. Like, did you guys see Lopez, whenever he had the ball at his feet, it seemed like the bloke had two left feet. And even though his sort of distribution actually wasn't too bad, I always felt like Lopez was about to kick the ball straight out unintentionally or something like that.
Big occasion, obviously, and Lopez is obviously a lot further back in his development than Neuer. And let's not forget, Neuer is a world-class goalkeeper who hasn't had the greatest sort of couple of years before that. But, you know, he's obviously a world-class goalkeeper, and he's just reminding us all of that at the moment.
His base level, even if he's not having like an amazing season, he's still elite, though.
I think it's a really crucial point, obviously, when we start looking at the final and things like that, because this is the most crazy thing about the Champions League for me, is that you have like the media gassing up players that like, you know, are hot right now, like Davies and stuff like that. And you're like, these are the players we should all be watching. And then you have players like Neuer and Muller, who before a couple of weeks ago, Muller wasn't even getting a start for Bayern. And Neuer just was seen as a glorified keeper from the past, but he's just kind of still there on reputation. And now these two guys are in a Champions League final, thanks to Muller basically demolishing a couple of teams and Neuer pulling off some really important saves. It's something that I've never quite get over with European football, how there are players. Buffon's one of these ones I sort of use as an example in the past. He might just be having a relatively okay tournament, but you only have to have a big game in the semi-final, and all of a sudden you're in the final, and you've got a player that we wouldn't have even been talking about them a few weeks ago, and now they're in the final and could get a Champions League medal. So it's just a crazy thing about European football. It's just like, it is a tournament at the end of the day, and if you can get through to the knockout rounds, it's amazing who gets the medals.
Yeah, agreed. One other player I do want to talk about before we move on to the actual final preview is Memphis Depay, and he showed how good he can be and how quick and direct he can be in those early minutes here. Obviously, wasn't able to score and give Lyon a lead, but with Ronald Koeman heading to Barca, he's been linked with Barcelona as well. And I mean, we don't know if Messi's going to be there next season or not, but do you think Memphis Depay headed to Barcelona, or do you think that'd be a good move for either the player or Barcelona?
What a downgrade. Messi out, Memphis in. My God. I don't know. I mean, we saw Memphis at United, and, you know, sort of wasn't the player that he was before coming to the club. You know, he had maybe like half a good season or something from memory. But, you know, going to a big club like that didn't seem to suit him. It seems to really suit him when he can be just a man like he is at Lyon. Do
you think he's like a Zaha? He likes being a big fish in a small pond.
Well, potentially, yeah. And I mean, I know the Koeman link is there, but, you know, how long is that there for? I think everyone knows that Koeman at Barcelona is a pretty temporary fix as well. So I don't know if it would be a great move, especially on that basis. You don't know how long the guy who's bringing you in is going to be there for. Yeah, I think, you know, you got a good thing going at Lyon. Why mess it up?
I think the thing is that I agree with you, Colbs, but I think from a player perspective, there's going to be some players right now who would never have dreamed of playing for Barcelona, who are looking at it like, this might be my chance to wear the shirt. And even though they might know that their Barcelona is not necessarily going to win as much as they would in the past, I think that they might even be like, sweet, I'm going to get that little little
Yeah.
tick against my name saying that I've played for
Barca's still
Barcelona,
Barca,
and
isn't it? Yeah.
so I'd be interested to see, because I mean, there's other players that are linked to Barcelona as well who I know that they might be sort of jumping on a sinking ship, but maybe they just do it for the reputation of playing for Barca. I mean, I'm not sure.
Interesting. Alrighty. We've delayed for long enough now, though. I think we're 35 minutes in, and we get to talk about the actual final itself. But this is how we got there, though. So it's important, listeners. Bayern play PSG on Monday morning Australian time. It's a big match, obviously. Both teams are huge European teams. Bayern are in their what is it? I think it's their 11th or 12th final. And obviously, this is PSG's first. So, boys, what are your thoughts about the final? Colby?
I think it's a very, very exciting lineup. Obviously, like you say, Bayern have got so much history in this stage, just recent history of sort of doing it at this level. PSG, this is like, uncharted territory for them. This is why the money came into PSG for this very game. This is why they brought in players like Neymar and Mbappe. This is what it's all about for that club. And the pressure will very, very much be on PSG. Hopefully we see a great game. Hopefully we see two sides just going at it, but you never know what you're going to get in a final. You mentioned at the start of the show, Tommie, that, if it's anything like the Europa League final, it'll be great. But really, really don't know what to expect. It seems like two teams that will probably just go about their usual business. They won't change the way they play for each other. So hopefully we're in for a good match.
Yeah, so curiously, you mentioned that like the pressure is going to be on PSG, which is kind of a weird scenario given that this is their first Champions League final. But like this is why there's been so much investment, like through not just Neymar and Mbappe, who they spent sort of squillions on, but other players as well. Like they've got Ander Herrera
investment in the club in the first place. That's why the money came in to win Champions Leagues.
Exactly. This is their first final. The last 6 Champions League final debutants have all lost, though. Does anyone want to have a guess at who the most recent debut Champions League final winner was? It's not in the 21st century.
Oh, is it Red Star?
Ooh, no. A little bit later, I think. It's another German team.
Dortmund.
Yep, it is. Sorry, it was probably too big a clue. But yeah, you've got to go all the way back to 97 for a Champions League final debutant to have won. So proves how challenging it can be on that big stage. But obviously you've got a couple of players who are experienced at the very highest level in Thiago Silva, Neymar, Mbappe, who've won big games before, and I don't think they'll be overawed by this, though. Bayern and PSG have never met in the knockout stages of the Champions League, though. They've played 8 times, all in the group stage. Interestingly, PSG have won 5 of those games, and Bayern have won 3 with no draws. So, yeah, I actually think that gives maybe PSG a bit of a mental advantage, and obviously Bayern have lost way more Champions League finals than they've actually won. So maybe the advantage does lie, I think, a little bit with PSG from that perspective.
It's a really interesting situation because I'm really conflicted with this game, because it's easy to sort of look at PSG and the money that's come in and be like, well, there's easily a moral stance or anti-stance you can take against them for the reasons that are pretty obvious. But there's a lot of people especially in German football, outside the Bayern fans, who really dislike Bayern for just basically monopolizing the talent and just pinching everyone's best players. So it's kind of like there's a lot of
and not for fair value either.
Yeah, and there's a bit of conflict in both camps for me. I think obviously, me being sort of anti the oil money way of winning Champions League. So same with City, same with PSG. I don't like the idea of PSG winning, but at the same time, Bayern, this will be their 6th cup. and Liverpool's currently sitting on 6 and Bayern on 5, and I'd quite like to keep Bayern at 5. So as you can tell, I'm really conflicted as to who I want to win at this stage. Going on to the actual game, though, this is something I wanted to ask you guys. We've all watched Bayern sort of just unveil this strategy so quickly of having an incredibly high line and just trying to basically obliterate a team in the first 20 or 30 minutes. The only times that Lyon looked like they were going to score was on the counter, and they actually did so pretty well. They should have scored a couple of goals. Now, PSG have got lethal players on the counter. So as far as the actual tactics go, and you were saying about them not changing them, I think you're right. I think it's too late now for anyone to change their tactics. But man, it's going to make for an intriguing first 20, 30 minutes, because Bayern play such a high line that imagine Mbappe or Neymar getting behind that. It's how will they deal with it?
Exactly, you're exactly right. Like Neymar and Mbappe are both just rapid, and so I think either of those two are got a real potential to get in behind that. And it's not particularly young, that Bayern backline either. Obviously, you've got Alaba, he's quick as well, and Davies, they're both quick, but Boateng, he ain't quick, and so that's a real opportunity for PSG to get in behind. At the other end, though, and Ash, I'm not even going to try and say your surname, mate, because I'm sure I'm going to butcher it. He makes an interesting point about PSG's defense, and that Thiago Silva, he thinks he is the key to PSG's chances of getting the win. Boys, do you think? How do you think PSG are going to go defensively up against the likes of Lewandowski, Davies, Muller, and co?
Well, I agree with Ash. It's those world-class players that just need to stand up and have a good night. Like we were talking about Neuer before, and Muller. All of these big names that, we've sort of forgotten as they've started to sort of fade naturally over the years. But, let's not forget Thiago Silva's a world-class defender. They're beside Marquinhos and others in the PSG backline. If Thiago Silva has a great game, then, yeah, I agree. I think that's critical for PSG.
Fair enough. Was in terms of the PSG defense, I actually think Juan Bernat, I think he and his story, I think are really key to this, and I think he's going to be a very motivated man after his time at Bayern and how that sort of all panned out. Either of you know the story about Bernat and how he left Bayern? Nope. Okay. So basically, Juan Bernat was the left back for most of the years that while Guardiola was at Bayern, and there was a game in 2018 where Bayern, they didn't end up losing to Sevilla in the Champions League, but they were put under a bit of pressure and they ended up conceding a goal in one of the matches. Bernat ended up getting sold in the next summer, and in the following October, Bayern president Uli Hoeneß had this to say about Bernat and why he was sold basically for so cheap. He said, when we played in Sevilla last season, Bernat was the only reason that we were close to being eliminated. That same day that we decided we would sell him for his shit play, quote. Obviously, it's in German, though. Bayern's luck and fortune does not depend on whether Bernat plays at Bayern. So, that was after the player had left the club, and Bernat never ended up sort of taking the bait and saying, "Oh yeah," and rubbishing the club or anything like that. But it does appear as though that things really soured towards the end of Bernat's 4 years at Bayern. I think Bernat seems to have really found himself a place at PSG where he's wanted and valued, and he scored a couple of really important goals for them this season as well. So I think he's going to be really motivated, and he's a player that really sort of goes under the radar as well. So I think he's going to be really key for them as well. We've touched upon him a little bit.
What are you thinking, Tommie? A bit of redemption from Bernat? Is that what you're predicting?
Was one other player who I guess we mentioned him already, and how he was brought basically to PSG to win PSG the Champions League, and that's Neymar. And he obviously stepped out of Messi's shadow at Barcelona. But do you think this is Neymar fulfilling his potential if he sort of takes a club like PSG on his own back to the Champions League title?
Yes, that's what he came there to do as well. That's what they brought him in for, and that's what he came there to do. And it's if exactly as you say, Tommie, if he can lift a team like PSG, if he can be the man and score a critical goal, or through his performances, lead PSG to something like a Champions League, which they've always wanted and always prized above all else. Absolutely, but this goes back to Jesse's question of who do we want to win, and do we want Neymar to stop being a meme? I mean, because it's going to go if PSG lose his final, or if Neymar has a bad game or something like that, the memes are just going to go to the next level, and it's all about what you want.
Yeah, it's a good point. On Neymar, Tommie, there's been a lot of talk about the Paris players sort of getting together at the start of the final sort of period, and I think it was Verratti, and someone was quoted saying, "We're going to make a pact together to go all the way this year," and all the usual stuff that comes out of the camp. But one of the things that has been sort of a subplot of that is it's seemingly Neymar's kind of changed his attitude to being a bit more of a team player and less rolling on the ground. And obviously we see that when we watch the games, but Neymar is really clocking up the assists. He was responsible for the pass before the pass in that, who were they playing when they knocked them out in the quarters? But there was the last
Atalanta,
goal.
I think, wasn't it?
Yes, correct. So he was very instrumental in playing a big role in the winner of that game. But he looks like a player that can set up goals as easily as scoring them at the moment, and that's not a sort of a player that we're used to associating with. So it'd be really interesting to see if he plays a big role in this game, not just from a goal scoring perspective, but if he can put it on a plate for Mbappe, then he's sort of done his job. So he's a different player at the moment from what we usually associate with him.
So do you think he's by far the most key player at PSG? Do you think he's more important than Mbappe, or do you think Mbappe could do the same things with someone else sort of putting the ball on a plate for him?
I don't think it's fair to say either's probably more important, because I think that Mbappe will be critical in front of goal. But I think that if you've got a team that's playing a high line like Bayern, and they're essentially trying to suffocate the hell out of PSG in the first 20 minutes, which they've done to pretty much every team in the competition, you need a player who can get themselves out of a tight space. I think they're talking about bringing Verratti back just for that reason, which is a big call because he hasn't been played for weeks, but they want to get him in there just so that he can beat the press. Neymar is going to be critical in beating the press. And if he can just basically beat a man one-on-one in the middle of the pitch, spin him, and then put Mbappe in space, then he's going to be absolutely critical, I think. So he is going to be, rightly so, one of the most watched players for PSG.
Fair point. We've sort of touched upon it a little bit already about if Neymar does win and what that will mean for sort of his legacy at Barcelona. At PSG. A little bit of a Freudian slip there. But do you think with the mess that is Barcelona at the moment, that if PSG do win, that it will mean Neymar will go, all right, cool, I've won that. I've won that there. Do I want to go back to, or does he want to go back to Barcelona after that?
Surely more likely. Surely that makes it more likely, Tommie. Yeah, if he can tick that off at PSG, get that off his back. Messi surely doesn't have too many more years left at Barcelona, which is part of the reason why Neymar wanted to leave, allegedly to get out of Messi's shadow. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess like you say about coming out of Messi's shadow, I think if Messi does stay, you'd almost think that it's unlikely for Neymar to go back to Barcelona for that reason. Like, why would he go back into Messi's shadow? I think.
Imagine a swap deal between the two clubs.
Cool.
Well, I tell you what, I actually don't think PSG would be that upset with that if they ended up getting Messi out of it. I'm not sure which club would end up paying possibly a little bit more, but yeah, it's not that as not as silly as it sounds, I guess. Alrighty, boys. I think there's a couple of key matchups that come into this one as well, which are probably going to go a long way towards deciding the match. Give us a little bit of your mind, and you think who's going to come out on top in some of these ones. So Neymar versus Alphonso Davies. I think that's the big one. Who do you think is going to come out on top in these battles?
I think you'd have to say Neymar if you're a betting man. I think Davies is absolutely brilliant, but he's up against a player who's got years of experience on him and is essentially, as we just mentioned, the key to PSG winning the final. So I think Davies is brilliant, but I think Davies' best years are ahead of him. I think Neymar's this is his moment. So I'd probably bet on Neymar getting on top of him there.
So I think we probably all agree that Neymar sort of like cheats in the sense that like he sits further up the field and like he doesn't necessarily track back a fullback such as Davies who might want to bomb on. Do you think Davies is likely to sort of sit deep and do a bit more of a man marking job on Neymar, or do you think they're going to be trying to make the most out of that? I guess of Neymar trying to sort of cheat and not track back. With the fullback.
Yeah, I think Davies will want to do a number on him. How much of a man-marking job he does, I don't know. But the thing is, much like the overall matchup between PSG and Bayern and the pressure being on PSG, the pressure, and we've talked about this, the pressure is on Neymar as well, and he bears a lot of that pressure on his shoulders. If Davies can get under his skin and the moment starts to get to Neymar, and Neymar starts to get frustrated and starts to dive, and that's how Davies wins this matchup, I think.
Fair enough. All right, a couple of the other ones, maybe Mbappe and Alaba. I suspect Alaba's going to play through the middle. I suspect Mbappe is going to play through the middle as well.
I think Mbappe for sure for me.
Too quick.
I mean, yeah, he's an absolute superstar, and all credit to Alaba. He's a great player, but Mbappe is a great player. So I think I have to side with Mbappe in that one.
We've discussed him a little bit already. Thiago Silva versus Lewandowski. Jesse?
Oh, jeez. I was actually thinking the comment earlier on about Thiago Silva from Ash. When we were talking about the Davies-Neymar matchup, I was thinking, well, if Davies does get in behind, who's going to be the most important person for PSG? It's going to be Thiago Silva. So the centre back comes into play there as sweeping up the mess if they get exposed. So yeah, that's a tough question. I'm going to throw this to Colby and ask him what he thinks first, and just see if I can ponder the question a little more, because it's a great question.
This is the Lewandowski Thiago Silva matchup. Well, on form, Lewandowski wins this matchup, but form can go out the window in big one-off finals like this, and we said before, we all know that Thiago Silva is also world class. So I can't pick who's going to win this matchup at the moment.
I think
sitting on the fence.
Lewandowski should win it, but I think going with Colby's point, the players I think that are more likely to win it for Bayern are Gnabry and even someone like Davies just pulling out an amazing play. I think that Lewandowski is going to be man marked to the days in this game. Like, I mean, why would they give him even a half a meter of space? I think he's just going to be hugged all game. So if he scores, I'd be a bit surprised. So I think Thiago Silva, I'm probably going to actually say Thiago Silva wins this matchup just from suffocating Lewandowski. It doesn't mean that PSG necessarily win. It just means he might win the one-on-one battle just because he's going to hug him all game.
Alrighty, boys. Look, before we get into your final predictions, do you think this is going to be a high-scoring game or a low-scoring game? In in the group stage and the knockout stages, Bayern scored 42 goals. PSG only scored 25. Bayern's 42 goals, that's an average of 4.2 per game. One, it's ridiculous, but two, it's also the second highest in Champions League history. And he's only beaten by the Manchester United team from, I think it's 99-2000, and they played 6 more games. So gives you a bit of an idea of how potent this Bayern front 4, 5, 6 is. But boys, do you think high scoring or low scoring?
I think that trend's going to continue. Bayern are one of those teams, a little bit like Man City, that when they go ahead, they just keep their foot on the gas. They don't let off teams. So I do see them scoring a couple of goals this game.
I think 2-2 final score for the 90 minutes, and it goes to extra time.
Wowee. And
I think Bayern get there in extra time. I think they win. So, but I think it's 2 goals apiece in the 90 minutes.
So look, I'd consider that's a pretty high scoring one if we see 4 goals in regular time.
I predict 4 goals as well, Tommie.
Yeah, you think it's
2-all
as well?
I think they're going to win it in regular time. 3-1 Bayern.
Ooh, yeah. This is a tricky one because like we've kind of alluded to this already about how sort of it's a little bit hard to sort of romanticize either team. Like one's owned by the Qataris and Bayern are just like this behemoth of German football and just hoover up all of the best players in Germany. Not always for a fair price either. So
can't think about that too much. Otherwise, you can't enjoy the Champions League. You may as well not watch because it's going to be like this every year if we start thinking about who owns these clubs.
True. But I guess like for me, my head says Bayern, but sort of I think my heart wants PSG to win just because they haven't won it before. And
my heart wants memes, Tommie. My heart wants memes.
We do have a couple of predictions from the thread as well. I've got someone thinks I'm not even going to try and say that. What's that? MK Ciso. He thinks that Bayern are going to win 2-0 with a goal from Lewandowski and Gnabry. And also Michael has said that he thinks losing the final could be a bigger blow to Paris than when Montbert left in 88.
This might be Mikey Mifsud in the chat here, Tommie. He's a big Montbert fan, so I don't know how many of those there are out there.
I think City gained more fans through Montbert than anything else that they've done throughout sort of Melbourne City's short existence. Alrighty, gents. That pretty much wraps things up, though. Obviously, it's going to be fantastic. The Champions League final tomorrow. It's an enormous spectacle, even if there's not going to be any fans there. So really looking forward to it. I hope everyone's alarm goes off, or they don't get any spoilers from social media if they decide to sleep in and watch the replay. Thanks for tuning in, listeners and viewers. We'll be uploading this as a podcast as well. So if you have missed it, by this point you've already heard all of it though. So looking forward to catching up with you all on the socials though. One final plug though to do with Soccer Aid. Don't forget, please donate if you can. Jump onto the GoFundMe, and also don't forget to tune in. 7 p.m. on Friday, the 28th of August. Until next time, though, enjoy the football.